Hello everyone, hope you are doing well and staying safe. My topic today is about equal concern and respect. I will be talking about hegemony and settled norms, about the moral and political theory, and the liberal view on human rights and the overlapping consensus. As we all know, human rights are norms that aspire to protect all people from severe political uh, and social abuses. So, human rights have become settled norms on both national and international level, especially when it comes to political legitimacy. It's expressed and judged hugely in terms of human rights. So, if we are going to compare human rights between 1970 and 1980, you will notice huge differences. Why? Because in 1970, 1980, human rights, there were a controversy about human rights, if it is an appropriate concern in foreign policy. And the second issue where only a small number of states were explicit to human rights internationally. But if we look toward the human rights today, we see that they are the main standard subject of both bilateral and multilateral diplomacy. States might promote human rights globally by seeking international attention. Um, so this might result in diplomacy aimed at strengthening international uh, rules or at recognizing new types of human rights. Thus, today, most national societies focuses on norms and values, while the government focuses on equal concern and respect. So the question here is why human rights become hegemonic. If you look toward it from the Universal Declaration of Theory, you see that human rights goes beyond the moral and political authorities, and those authorities goes beyond their backing force or power. Human rights have become hegemonic because it looks toward the social and political aspiration of families and groups all over the world. So let's shift to the moral and political theory. So, for the moral theory, human rights protect essential characteristics that all of us share despite the historical, geographic, and cultural, communal, and other things that shape our lives and our relation with each other in a unique way. This is because human rights are fundamental in shaping human dignity, and it is to remain virtually virtual universal that can be applied to all humans regardless their race, shape, color, gender, and nationality. So, when it comes to the political theory, human rights is a social practice, and the individual use it for certain action. So, they represent reasons that social and political actors rely on international affairs to advocate interfering in the internal affairs of a state to provide assistance and promote protection. What this practice reveals is that human rights protects any individual interest from danger associated with the exercise of sovereign power. So states have the primary obligation to protect urgent individual interest over whom they exercise sovereign power, whereas the external actors such as the international institutions comes as a secondary obligation, so they can secure protection when state fails to overcome its protection. Now to the equal concern and respect. So, human rights is defined as political rather than moral, and this is what widely accepted. And this is because it requires an agent of authority, the duty bearer being the state, and the state thus is authorized to ensure the sanctity of an individual's rights. So, state itself can be both a protector or a violator of human rights. The term human rights under a political guide become a matter of state interest, which is what human rights is about or should be about. Because human rights is a matter of heart, not one interest. And that's why, in my opinion, it's danger to assume human rights as politics. Because human rights should be constant. And it can't come from moral relativism because people can view human rights in different way. It's like you are holding a green pen and people are seeing it red. So this doesn't change the reality that it is green. And human rights can view it in different ways culturally or morally. So now to the equality and autonomy. We are all born free individuals with an inherited dignity and worth, and the government should treat us as equal concern and respect without any discrimination of opportunity or entitlement, because we are all entitled and no one is more privileged than the other. Therefore, state must treat individuals as moral and political equal. And to be equal, we have to be autonomous and have the freedom to pursue our lives. So, liberty and autonomy are different facts of human rights. So, if you violate someone's liberty, this will be no longer equal but less. And this is what creates inequalities in our societies. Now, toward liberal theory on human rights. So, liberalism is committed to liberty, freedom, autonomy, and equality because it places a sensuality on human individuals, the one who gets to govern their own lives, while recognizing the same rights of others. And equality for the all is at the heart of every liberal. Now to the graph. So here we have the right-based and the good-based. So the good base is obviously based on goods and values rights, and right is based on rights. So this is where a more good-based, utilitarian, market-oriented outlook is found in a good base. But we said before that rights are arguably more important than goods because rights is more argument related to morals, and morals are higher than values, which is good space. So rights are higher than morals, which tells you the right from wrong, while goods are more about what to value. So morals are more important and thus the right-based are important. We have thin and thick conception. Here, as we can see, it goes from broad to narrow, more authority, less authority, collective and individual. So the broad implies it would encompass all rights, not just civil or political. It includes the economic, social, etc. Hence why the Social Democrats fall on the top left corner. Why? Because they believe in the welfare model, such as the UDHR, because rights have to be thick and expansive, encompassing all ranges political, social, civil, and economic. Now to the minimal liberals. They fall in the bottom left because they have a thin conception. They highly emphasizes on less authority, freedom from government, and they have a high emphasis on people making their own choices. as they have a less fair attitude on an extremist end of economic freedom. That's why they have a thin, narrow, and short list of human rights. So now we have the neoliberal in the bottom right corner because it fundamentally seeks to reduce the role of a state while at the same time being a good base. So they are not fundamentally in line with human rights because neoliberals have a logic of efficiency, which shouldn't be the case of human rights. So this leads us to say that yes, there is an overlapping consensus on human rights universal declaration. While we do have overlapping consensus, the list is limited because not everyone values human rights as equal in nature, and that's why we still have slavery today. And the Universal Declaration is not binding for a reason that every societies and the state differ from other, and so some of them don't have the authority to accept it. So rights shouldn't be a matter of selfish interest, it should be a matter of heart. It shouldn't be coerced on anyone to feel or believe in it. If it doesn't come truly from the heart and will and action for dignity in life, then it does become pointless as you fundamentally don't believe in it. So this uncoerced consensus is of course bounded. And individuals' freedom do have boundaries once it infringes upon the equality and rights of others. So now to the conclusion, I just want to put up a quote for uh, sorry by James. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. There is a sense of goodness and mutual concern within all of us. It's reflected in the animal kingdom. You can observe how ants helps each others and work together for goodness. So if no one cares about human rights, who will care? Human rights shouldn't be looked at as an idol. And human rights are not privileged by government. Why? Because it's every human entitlement. Are we bad at our core? Of course, yes. But evil and aggression is not something to give ourselves over. We should rise and realize that there is a morality within us, given by a moral giver. We are not all bad. There is goodness within us. In order to live better, we should start with our own circle or our own oikases. We are capable of a change. And in words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible at first until it's done. Thank you.